In the eerie ruins of an abandoned fort on Isla Cruces, a rogue pirate named Katrina Red finds a glowing fragment of a black map inscribed in Atlantean symbols. Word spreads that it leads to the Lost Horizon, a mythical sea beyond death, where time is frozen and treasure is eternal. Meanwhile, Jack Sparrow is discovered living anonymously in Tortuga, penniless and drunken, but still with that unpredictable charm. Rosemont, a ruthless new antagonist from the British Royal Navy. Rosemont offers Jack a deal. In exchange for a pardon, he must lead the Navy to the Lost Horizon and retrieve whatever lies there. Jack pretends not to know what the horizon is until he sees the map fragment in Rosemont's possession. On the deck of the Flying Dutchman, Will Turner senses an imbalance in the sea. The ship, which guides dead souls to the afterlife, is missing more souls every day. He reunites with Elizabeth Swan, now a royal diplomat in Port Royal, and their son Henry Turner, who has inherited both their courage and curiosity. Together, they decide to investigate the vanishing spirits, and all signs point to the same place, the Lost Horizon. Rhiannon Drake, a legendary pirate queen from the Indian Ocean and Jack's former flame, is introduced. She possesses the second piece of the map and commands a magical ship called the Crimson Serpent, bound to her soul. Rhiannon is determined to take the Horizon's power for herself, not for treasure, but to control death and resurrect her lost crew. In Tortuga, Jack escapes his guards with help from old friends, Joshua Gibbs, Marty, and Scrum. They recover the Black Pearl, hidden and partially submerged in a secret cove, magically bound in a bottle again. Jack uses the last of his enchanted rum to release it and sets sail to reunite the three pieces of the map before Rosemont or Rhiannon does. Sailing deeper into uncharted waters, the Pearl is caught in a supernatural current filled with fog and ghost ships, some half visible, others whispers in the mist. The crew begins having visions of past sins. They realize they've entered the Forgotten Sea, a borderland between the living world and the realm of the dead. The Flying Dutchman intercepts the Black Pearl, warning them that their path threatens the balance between life and death. Will begs Jack to turn back, but Jack tricks them with a false heading and sails into night. Henry stows away on the Pearl, hoping to learn the truth about the horizon. On a time-warped island called Isla Vuelta, Jack and Henry discover an ancient mirror that reflects not their present, but their moment of death. Jack sees himself impaled by a skeletal pirate lord. Henry realizes the map is not just navigational. It's cursed, and each piece grants its bearer power over fate. Rosemont, now with a cursed Spanish Armada fleet resurrected using black magic stolen from a sunken monastery, corners Jack near Isla Vuelta. In a tense standoff, Rosemont captures Gibbs and demands Jack's piece of the map. Jack reluctantly gives in, but secretly swaps it with a fake. Rhiannon appears, seemingly to rescue Jack, only to betray him again. She seduces Rosemont with promises of immortality and steals both of their map pieces. However, she plans to sacrifice him as part of a ritual to claim the throne of the Lost Horizon and become Death's Queen. The Flying Dutchman and Black Pearl team up to breach the Horizon's gate, a skyward maelstrom swirling with lightning and ghost screams. The two ships ride up the spiraling water vortex and shoot through a blinding light, entering a dimension beyond time, the Lost Horizon. Within the Lost Horizon lies a ghost city on a floating isle surrounded by frozen storm clouds and the wrecks of centuries of lost ships. There, Captain Barbossa reigns, resurrected by the island's magic after sacrificing himself in Dead Men Tell No Tales. Half dead and bound to the island, he warns them that the Horizon's power is seductive and damning. Barbossa explains that the Lost Horizon is Atlantis, cursed and sealed by sea gods after pirates stole its secrets. The Throne of Time grants mastery over death, but drains the soul. Rhiannon seeks to absorb the power and become immortal. But if she succeeds, the world of the living and dead will collapse in a chaos. On the ruins of the throne, Jack, Rosemont, and Rhiannon engage in a multi-layered sword fight full of shifting illusions and collapsing time. Rosemont is betrayed and killed by Rhiannon, who gains near-divine powers and unleashes a wave of death across the horizon. Jack barely escapes with Henry and Elizabeth. Henry deciphers ancient inscriptions in Atlantis. The Lost Horizon was a failed attempt to cheat the sea goddess Calypso, binding her sister in crystal to stall death forever. This broken pact now causes the dead to disappear. The longer the horizon exists, the more souls will be erased. To undo the curse, Jack must offer a soul willingly to replace the bound goddess. Barbossa steps forward. In a redemptive act, he gives up his second life to seal the horizon. The city begins collapsing as Jack, Will, Henry, and Elizabeth flee aboard the Pearl and Dutchman. As the ocean absorbs the floating city, Jack is pulled down by collapsing debris. Everyone believes he's dead again. Elizabeth and Will, reunited for the first time in years, finally get to say goodbye as the horizon disappears in a beam of white light. With the horizon gone, the Flying Dutchman resumes its duty. Souls begin flowing again. Elizabeth returns to Port Royal with Henry, who is now being hailed as a hero. Rhiannon vanishes into the ocean, presumed dead, but her ship is seen briefly in the mist. Weeks later, Gibbs receives a floating bottle washed ashore with a torn page from Jack's journal and a crude sketch of Atlantis. The message, still kicking, still thirsty, found something bigger than the horizon. X marks the spot. Savvy, he laughs, realizing Jack is alive and already on his next quest. In a bustling tavern in the East Indies, a teenage girl enters and demands to hear tales of the great Captain Jack Sparrow. Gibbs begins narrating, and the camera cuts to a distant island, where the Black Pearl, newly rebuilt and crewed by misfits, sails into a blood-orange sunset, Jack at the helm.